everyone. Welcome back to the CONVO couch. I am Fiorella and Jonny is here with me as well. How's everyone doing? I'm just going to wait a couple minutes till a few of you come in. Everything good? YouTube, ROKFIN.
Yeah, YouTube and ROKFIN are up.
Hey guys. So, it's been a pretty hectic day as far as the news in the last couple days. We've been seeing a lot of the establishment really continue to push against this idea that progressives aren't going to vote for Joe Biden, and progressives have continuously pushed against it, saying that they're not going to do it. And of course, you would think that the Democrats would begin making some concessions, maybe talking about some sort of party platform, if you still care about that, because for me personally, I feel like at this point, we're not really going to get anything from them. And mainly, and I'll have to talk about this in a separate video, but mainly it's because we just have no leverage and we continuously keep giving in to them, keep letting them do this because we tell ourselves that this is it. This is the last. This is what we can do. This is what we need to do. That, you know, we're so close. We're progressing. We're getting people in there. We're just so close. We keep lying to ourselves and telling ourselves that we're actually doing something that's making them move to the left, but we're really not making them move to the left. What's happening is progressives are actually giving in a lot of their power. And what we need to do is the opposite. We need to fight back and really push back against everything else. So today, of course, the New York Board of Elections removed Sanders from the ballot and they canceled the presidential primary. So essentially what they did was say that this was a result of deliberation over safety issues concerning COVID-19. But the reality is they're still having their down ballot elections. So for their local races, they're still having them. So it's obvious that this was all about removing Bernie Sanders from the ballot. And according to the Huffington Post, they state that the New York State Board of Elections removed Sanders from the primary election ballot today, disappointing Sanders and activists who called on the board to give a few New Yorkers a chance to cast symbolic votes for him. Although Sanders withdrew from the presidential primary earlier this month and endorsed Vice President Joe Biden shortly afterward, he insisted that he would remain on the ballot in states that have yet to vote. Sanders and his allies want to accumulate enough convention delegates to be able to influence the Democratic Party platform and rules. The Biden campaign has indicated that it is open to working with Sanders on compromise over convention delegates. So basically what happened was this was, of course, the New York State Board of Elections. And if I know anything about the New York State Board of Elections, I know that they're very similar to California in the sense that they're corrupt, if not just as corrupt, if not more. And the Sanders supporters, and I've mentioned it on my Twitter before, had been actively fighting against this. And I'm going to mention that a lot of them really try to draw the campaign's attention to this issue, saying they're going to try to get Bernie off the ballot. We need to know what to do. We need help. They were not responded to with any sort of answer in any way, shape, or form. And another thing that they did was say that this was due to safety concerns. They specifically stated that let me quote this from the New York Times. In making the decision against holding a primary, which had been scheduled for June 23rd, the Democratic chair of New York State Board of Elections called the primary essentially a beauty contest that the state could ill afford in the face of the coronavirus pandemic. So he's comparing people's democracy and people's election to a beauty contest, saying that, no, we don't need to do this because Bernie Sanders dropped out. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Bernie Sanders dropped out. This is exactly why he shouldn't have dropped out. He literally gave up all his leverage. And we told him this. We said, if you drop out, you're not going to have anything to kind of gamble with, to kind of hold them against. And this is exactly what we're seeing happen now. I'm not surprised this is happening. It is infuriating in the general sense of, wow, look at our elections. We live in a fascist oligarchy. I mean, I don't know how much more they have to keep doing to you for you to actually stop giving them any sort of credit. And I think, I'm just like flabbergasted that people are still trying to work inside the party in regards to even presidential elections or even congressional elections, when we're going to see exactly why this doesn't work. And they're saying, of course, that this is because of the coronavirus, but they're opening back up. Not only New York, but several states across the country are going to start to open back up. Further, if we recall, during the Wisconsin primary, Democrats didn't really care to endanger people. Also, during the Illinois, Florida, and Arizona primaries, Democrats didn't really give a damn about risking people's lives as long as they could hurry up and push the primary to make sure Joe Biden was the nominee. Now that Bernie Sanders is no longer in the race, now they turn it around and say, oh, we do have to, we shouldn't even have primaries because we want to make sure people are safe. Yet they're still having their down ballot candidates, not to mention the fact that we could also see vote by mail happen. But none of that matters to them because they're not operating by the rules of democracy. They're operating based on any rules they make up. And this is why you can't work with the DNC. This is why you can't work with Democrats. This is part of election fraud. This right here. They can just move and change the rules to fit whatever they want. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing here when they dismiss election fraud. It's not just one thing. It is a coalition of things. It's so many things that come together to really make it so Bernie Sanders or anybody like him never has a shot at the presidency. And that's something that we need to absolutely be facing, especially right now when there is a chance to actually have more of a real mass revolution movement. Jonny, what do you think about that?
Yeah, he shouldn't have dropped out. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, he dropped out, so I mean, you kind of expect them that they're going to do something like this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, him dropping out, it was him giving all his power. And all of his supporters told him. But I'm going to mention right now somebody that actually wanted Bernie Sanders to drop out, right? Because if we recall, and if we've been paying attention to who were the problematic people, the top advisors in the Bernie Sanders campaign, Jeff Weaver was one of them. And Jeff Weaver today had a response that I wouldn't call anything less than grandstanding. And it's grandstanding because Jeff Weaver was one of the people that urged Sanders to drop out of the race. And this is his response regarding the New York primary. He said, "Today's decision by the State of New York Board of Elections is an outrage, a blow to American democracy, and must be overturned by the DNC. Just last week, Vice President Biden warned the American people that President Trump could use the current crisis as an excuse to postpone the November election. Well, he now has a precedent thanks to New York State. While we understand that we did not have the votes to win the Democratic nomination, our campaign was suspended, not ended, because people in every state should have the right to express their preference. What the Board of Elections is ignoring is that the primary process not only leads to a nominee, but also the selection of delegates, which helps determine the platform and rules of the Democratic Party. No one asked New York to cancel the election. The DNC didn't request it. The Biden campaign didn't request it. And our campaign communicated that we wanted to remain on the ballot. Given that the primary is months away, the proper response must be to make the election safe, such as going to all vote by mail rather than to eliminating people's right to vote completely. New York has clearly violated its approval delegate selection plan. If this is not remedied, New York should lose all the delegates to the 2020 Democratic National Convention, and there should be a broader review by the Democratic Party of New York's checkered pattern of voter disenfranchisement. So, okay, I agree with everything he said, that it's wrong, but why didn't he say this sooner? Why when the activists and the Sanders supporters still calling people, working hours for free to get people to vote for Bernie Sanders, to get people to be informed that, hey, he may not be on the ballot? Why didn't you say something before? Why now are you coming out and saying this? And further, why did you ask Bernie Sanders to drop out? Why were you one of the people pushing for Sanders to drop out if you really cared about people exercising their right to vote? Where like this is reactive. This is not proactive. And the fact that Jeff Weber is all of a sudden giving a damn about the elections really doesn't tell me much other than he's just grandstanding. And we don't have time for that. And I think it's really a disservice to the Sanders supporters, to the people who have really put so much effort into even now trying to get something, trying to work within the party. It just shows you that they don't care. They don't care. They don't care to work with you. They don't care to do anything for you. Stop. Like, it's, to me, this is like abusive. It's so abusive. And we need to stop participating in that abuse and enabling that abuse, because this is going to continue to happen because we never call them out. We just continue to do what they want us to do. And until progressives freaking learn that, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything from the Democratic Party. He mentions that the Democratic, that Joe Biden's campaign was working with Bernie. Do you really think that Joe Biden's campaign is going to say, oh, yeah, no, this is wrong? Even if they say it, are they going to mean it? They're not going to mean it because they don't care. This benefits them. This is all about maintaining power. This was all about making sure Sanders gets absolutely nothing. And even bigger than Sanders, progressives, because they don't have to, because you don't hold them accountable. And it's that simple. Until you hold them accountable, nothing is really, really going to happen. And the worst part is California is threatening to do the same exact thing. So as you guys know, Governor Newsom, who hasn't responded to any of this, and Rusty Hicks have been under pressure. Rusty Hicks is the chair of the California Democratic Party. And he has been called on by people like Ro Khanna, who have been hearing these murmurs that they're going to try to do this, which the same thing they did in New York to Bernie Sanders, but in a different way. So Rusty Hicks responded to Ro Khanna, who said, Governor Gavin Newsom, and Rusty Hicks, please live up to your commitment that the Bernie Sanders should keep the delegates he earned in California. He had endorsed Biden, but stripping him of his delegates is an affront to the primary process and the policies he is fighting for. Let us know. So Ro Khanna tweeted at Gavin Newsom about this, and Rusty Hicks, and Gavin Newsom didn't respond, but Rusty Hicks did. And Rusty Hicks said, my hope, you must be confusing the California Dem for the DNC/Joe Biden. My hope is the presidential campaigns collaborate, and I understand they are doing so, to reach a delegate allocation that upholds democratic principles, unifies our party, and helps us win the White House in 2020. And
principles unify our party.
Yeah, right. It's all. And we know because we've been following who Rusty Hicks is. He is just of the same caliber of politician as an Nancy Pelosi's, a Dianne Feinstein's of the world, the establishment. So they're just playing and gaslighting here. If we read the rest of the responses, you're going to see exactly how they're doing. Just below that, Jonny, Ro Khanna says, the question is simple. It's not one of legalese. Do you believe that all the statewide delegates Bernie earned through votes should go to him? What do you stand for and believe in? That's what California progressives want to know. And to this, Rusty also responded, giving us the total number of delegates Sanders has, which, by the way, even though we won, like I said, this was one of the worst primaries in the entire country. And he responds by saying, here are the total, the California delegate allocation is Sanders 225, Biden 172, and they go over as to which ones they are. You guys can see them there. But then Rusty Hicks says further on, on the thread, he goes on to say, while Rule 11C of the DNC delegate selection outlines the allocation process once a campaign is suspended, I'm told the Sanders and Biden campaigns are collaborating on an equitable delegate allocation. That is not the same thing as Sanders keeping all his delegates. That is not the same thing as Sanders keeping all his delegates. He's literally saying, oh, they have to talk it through and they have to come to a conclusion to see how the delegates are going to be allocated. That is not the same thing that Sanders are saying. And he says, I encourage the campaigns to reach an agreement quickly so we can all get about the business of removing 45 from the White House. Okay, so this is just basically gaslighting because he's not answering the question. Because Ro Khanna, and I know Nina Turner also called him out, are asking him like, hey, just, make sure that Sanders gets his delegates fair and square. California went for Bernie Sanders in a big way. And to strip him of his delegates after the fact is completely undemocratic. And it doesn't make any sense. So they're obviously just punching. And you would think they'd be smart enough to actually be more open to progressives if they really wanted their votes. But the thing is, guys, they don't care because they don't need your vote because they're going to select Biden anyway. And they don't really care if they lose to Donald Trump. It's never been about beating Trump. It's always been about beating Sanders. And they've managed to do that. So that's the bottom line. And that's what we have to be really aware of. And that's one of the things we really have to be have in the back of our minds when we're deciding if you're really going to vote for Joe Biden or if you're even going to entertain the idea of working within the Democratic Party if they really do this to you time and time again. So that's the update on that. And I urge people to really, really push the Joe Biden drop out, never Biden hashtags, because those have been coming along really well. And that's what we need to really do because the Democrats really are laughing in our faces right now, thinking that they can do what they want and get away with it. So today, AOC was live with Elizabeth Warren on Instagram, but I'm going to specifically talk about how AOC, Jayapal, and progressives in Congress are proving to us that Dem Enter doesn't work. And it's not enough, obviously, that they rig our elections, that they commit election fraud, that they change the rules, that they treat us like we're MAGA trolls. That's not enough. It's even worse when the progressives we have elected to Congress constantly capitulate to the establishment. And by capitulate, I mean they give in. Just like the Democrats cave to Republicans time and time again, whether it was the CARES Act or whether it's any sort of bill that really benefits the elites, whether it's the Patriot Act, whether it's the funding for the military industrial complex. Democrats always cave to Republicans and they don't really get anything in return. Then they pretend that they're so outraged by what they're doing. And recently, of course, AOC endorsed Biden. And AOC, of course, is one of the people that progressives had pinned as like maybe the next Bernie Sanders. And she said she would vote for Biden in November as well. So she's completely ignoring all the allegations, of course, that we're going to go into regarding Tara Reade against Joe Biden. And not just Tara Reade, but 7 other women, and a lot of these women have come out and have been very specific regarding what exactly is their accusations against him. But she hasn't really touched on that very much. She really gave the same old, "Oh, we need to remove Donald Trump out of the White House." And further, taking that a step further, she actually voted against the second bill for small businesses after voting for the first, which was much worse. And she tweeted about it here, basically talking about how Congress just voted for the first time in a month on a bill that doesn't address the core issues of facing working families. They then adjourned again until further notice. Someday and next time doesn't cut it. Struggling families need a timeline. And the problem I have with AOC really not really voting for this bill that is actually needed, we needed a bill for small businesses, is because she's grandstanding. This is like grandstanding. Again, you have to know how to spot grandstanding. They could have done something before. She didn't vote against the bill earlier, the CARES Act. She didn't vote against that. That was the big one, the huge transfer of wealth okay, into the hands of the banks, into the hands of corporations that really just unleashed this whole situation. And instead of standing against that, really, and really voicing her concern against that, she is now standing against this bill. And in particular, to me, it's just grandstanding. Because if she really cared about the families and the poverty and what people are experiencing right now, she would have said something much earlier. And that's the problem I have. And I get it. Oh, I have to keep my position. I have to make sure that I get reelected. I have to make sure that I am, I am still working within the party leadership so I can get some things done. That's the mindset that these progressives in Congress are coming from. But it doesn't do anything to us, because it doesn't do anything for us, because all it does is make it about them protecting their seat versus them standing with the people. And so what's the point, is my point. What is the point of electing progressives to the Democratic Party and electing them to Congress if they're going to call Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear, if they're going to delegate to the caucus leadership, if they're going to pretty much fall in line just like everybody else? Because we elected you and we promoted you and we built you because we want you to be opposition to the Democratic Party. We don't want you to be the same touting line Democrat that we're used to that hasn't done shit for us. Because if we wanted that, we would have just voted for the neoliberal. And while I appreciate all the tweeting and all the videos of anger and obvious discord with the party, that's just words. That doesn't do anything for the people. If you really are going to call yourself a progressive, you need to oppose the Democratic Party leadership. You can't just do it when the cameras are on. You have to do it all the time behind the scenes. And I just do not see it from the squad. And especially AOC has most recently been disappointing to me. And I really don't know exactly what to expect from her, other than expect her to capitulate to the establishment all the time now. And I mean, I was a huge AOC supporter, fundraisers and all of these things for her. And it's just, to me, this proves that Dem Enter doesn't work, because what happens is they're going to try to be loyal to the party and party leadership to keep their seats. And that's it. And I really don't have that much trust in the next anybody else getting in under the Democratic Party, because what happens if they even do oppose them? They're alone. There's not enough of them. And I get it. There's not enough of the squad, but at least form a coalition. Use the people. They're very popular. AOC is very popular. She could literally use her popularity, her network, her platform to really urge people to work with her and highlight exactly just how corrupt the Democratic Party is. But instead, she focuses on Republicans mostly. And her focus on Republicans really does nothing to progressives, because the Republicans aren't the ones really fighting us right now. It's the Democrats. The Democratic establishment are the ones that are keeping us from progress. And another one that has, of course, capitulated to the establishment with zero mention of Trump's sexual accusations is Pramila Jayapal. Pramila Jayapal, who is wonderful when it comes to Medicare for All advocacy, who has really fought hard to make that something mainstream. She said, "Today, I am announcing my endorsement of Joe Biden for president of the United States." And she pinned this tweet. "VP Biden is a deeply dedicated public servant with the ability to unite the American people. I am moved by his compassion and ability to connect with people on the most human level." And she further goes on just pretty much propping him up, blah, blah, blah. "I started this campaign as an ardent and vocal surrogate for Bernie Sanders, and while I have not always agreed with the Vice President, Joe Biden, on matters of policy, I'm ready to work with him to craft and then implement the most progressive agenda of any candidate in history." And then she goes on to talk about Donald Trump. And the fact that she even says that Joe Biden, oh, here we go, "We are ready for a president who will encourage us to be as big as we can be with compassion and bold leadership." That president must be Joe Biden. I will do everything I can to help Joe Biden win back the White House, take back the Senate, and preserve our House majority. Together, I am confident we can build a more perfect union. This is all bullshit. This is all pandering. This is all platitudes. It's all symbolic crap. That's all they have, because guess what? She can't really talk about Joe Biden's policies. What policies of Joe Biden's are actually going to help the working people? She can't talk about that. So she can't even mention that. So all she has to rely on are platitudes. And it's really disheartening to see every single person you thought was a progressive firebrand, was a progressive, just huge progressive leftist that was going to take on the establishment, and then they just turn around and endorse Joe Biden, like patriot voting Joe Biden, Anita Hill Joe Biden, Tara Reade, assaulter Joe Biden who wrote the crime bill, Joe Biden who voted for the war in Iraq, Joe Biden who worked with segregationists, Joe Biden who lied on national television about his record, Joe Biden who can't even keep up a normal cognitive conversation with somebody and has to have his wife speak for him. That Joe Biden. They're completely endorsing all of that. They're endorsing Joe Biden, they're endorsing all of that. Never again can the Democrats say Donald Trump is a sexist, racist, blah, 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 without saying Joe Biden is a sexist, racist, blah, blah, blah. And that's the hypocrisy, and that's what's going to get people to vote for Donald Trump. And I think the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is so naive to think that it's okay, they can push Biden, they're going to work. They're so naive. This is not how it works. They have zero leverage. Again, this really, really tells me that Dem Enter doesn't work. What's the point of having Dem Enter if these people are all going to be the same as the establishment? At the end of the day, when the decision gets hard, when things get really, really difficult, they're going to continue to vote with them. So what the hell is the point of continuing to elect Democrats, even if they're far to the left of the idiots we've had? There's no point. There's no point. So honestly, the people that say, oh, I'm Dem Enter, I think they want us to leave. They want us to really get out so they can take over. They have taken over. You have absolutely no power, no leverage, and the people you put in there under that party are already done because they have to protect their seats. That's how they see it. I have to protect my seat, so I have to work with them. They're promoting incrementalism. They're promoting that sort of idea that you have to, craft this thing, this platform, and we're going to make it progressive. It might sound progressive, the way they're propping it up, but it's not shit. It's not shit. Change will not come from these people. It's not going to come from inside the party. It's not even going to come from inside the electorate. Change has to come from outside the electorate. It has to come from a mass movement of people that are pissed off, just like everybody is, taking actual action. Because these people are now, even the progressives, responding to party leadership over you, the constituents who voted them in. And that's not how this is supposed to work. This is not the way we progress. This isn't the way we do things. And AOC, like I mentioned, was in a live stream this morning with Elizabeth Warren having a talk amidst this whole debacle in New York. And she did make a tweet about it, saying that it wasn't right. But again, this is what I mean by grandstanding. Oh yeah, this sucks. This isn't right. Where were you before it happened? Where were you when we were talking about elections being fraudulent? Where is the Bernie Sanders campaign in regards to election integrity? There's been zero mention of that. Oh, yes, this is unfair. Oh, yes, the DNC shouldn't have done this or didn't want this. New York is bad, 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 bad. But what are they actually doing about it? Nothing. And so you would be completely stupid at this point to think that we're going to reform that party in any way, shape, or form in time for anything to happen to actually help the American people. We are in the midst of a freaking depression. Things are about to get worse. Things are about to get far worse. Small businesses are not making it right now. And this is only going to get worse. And this is all they're giving us. They're giving us live streams with Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, who's at fault largely for Bernie Sanders' loss in many states because she refused to endorse him. She refused to really back the guy that supposedly had so much in common with her bold progressive policies. So, you know what? Like, no, I'm done with the Democratic Party. All of us should be entirely done with the Democratic Party. I don't really know how you can save the Democratic Party. I don't really know how you, to me, it's self-mutilation at this, to be giving the Democratic Party any benefit of the doubt. And while I support people like Shahid Buttar and Jen Perlman and all these good progressives we have, that's it. That's it. After this, I can't. And you know what? And I urge you to donate to those people. But again, maybe they're seeing this and they're saying, wow, like, yeah, we really do need opposition. But really, every single time we put our people in there, I don't want to say the word sell out, but I don't know what else to call it. It's not that, it's like they're like gonna do eventually what the Democratic Party leadership does. They're all gonna consolidate with Joe Biden against Trump. Yeah, but they're not consolidating with you. So I'm essentially done with them. I don't know what else to say. Johnny, you have anything to say? Do you have
I mean, there's still these Democrats that are running, like Angelica Duenas, who Tina interviewed today, and that interview will be out on ROKFIN. I actually donated in the middle of the interview
because she's great.
I believe in her, and
she was a Green candidate before.
She's the only one. She's relating how the immigration problem is due to not a problem, but
foreign policy.
It's due to our foreign policy. But and it's like weird because I'm Dem exit right now, but then like there's still candidates I support, so I don't know.
You can be an independent in California and still vote for the Democrats you like. But at the same time, I firmly believe we need to build outside the party, because otherwise we're just wasting our time. We're putting all our effort into people within the party. And I get it, you guys. I'm not saying that we're going to win anything by supporting Greens, but I think we're going to win by supporting Greens or whoever it is you're going to support. You build that party up. The real question we have to tackle is the election integrity issue. Because until we have fair and free elections, we're not going to be able to elect a Green. We're not going to be able to elect independents, really. You can count, we have 2 independents?
It's like 2 out of 400.
Yeah, that's it.
Congress.
Because the system isn't set up to let these independents win. A state like Vermont has always been a little bit more independent. Maybe in a state like New Hampshire, this as well. But the majority of the system, the electorate, isn't really set up for a independent or a third party person to win. I've seen Greens win in city council and things like that. Yeah. But again, we have been putting so much of our effort in this Dem Enter, get progressives in to infiltrate the party. The party infiltrates the progressives. That's what's been happening time and time again. We can't deny it. It's very obvious at this point.
Well, since I've been helping Tina out with her interviews, and you can find those on ROKFIN/Tina Desiree Berg. The other day she interviewed with Johnny Graz and Pat DeBurner, and what Johnny Graz was saying was everything. He was speaking fire. It was he's basically saying that we need to make them uncomfortable. We need to make all these people, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, we need to make them uncomfortable. We need to go to their houses and protest.
Maria Strada has been doing that.
Maria Strada has been doing that, which we need to cover more of.
She's doing it tomorrow as well.
Well, let's go cover that. But we need to make them uncomfortable. I mean, this is. Do you see where we're at right now? We have no healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. People are dying. Bernie's giving up because he's trying to. The Democratic Party is a mafia. You can't reform the mafia by joining from inside and trying to reform the mafia. You can't do it. You can't do it.
You can't defeat corruption by accepting corruption and taking it in and breathing it in.
Because they're just gonna ignore you, and they'll try and they'll play within the rules, but they can adjust the rules at any time. They're a private company, so we need to protest them. We need to be outside Nancy Pelosi's house. I'm down to be outside Nancy Pelosi's house. I'm down to cover that. So yeah, that's along with election integrity, which I'm working on something for that document since we were here for the 2020 LA disaster that happened, and somehow 28 Joe Biden walked away with 28% of the vote. You're gonna tell me he hasn't come here once and he's walking away with 28% of the vote?
Yeah,
come on.
And now they want to take away Bernie's delegates. I mean, it's just how much more do they have to do before you say enough? Really, really say it. Like, really say it. So other than this, there's been a lot of progressive and Democratic attention paid to the Trump supporters who are protesting against the lockdown, and they're trying to protest their civil liberties. For their civil liberties, they're saying civil liberties are being infringed. It's true that our civil liberties are being infringed. I mean, because the establishment has been getting rid of habeas corpus, has been pushing for more surveillance, has been canceling and promoting elections depending on what's more convenient, right? Because depending on what's convenient, they'll either cancel the election or they'll either push it through. And Democrats are all a rage of what's happening right now. And you can see in that video, and we can even play it right now a little bit, just like a few seconds. And you can see all those people there. That's a lot of people, right? That's a lot of people. The first thing that comes to mind to me is that I wish that we could gather those numbers or more for things that actually matter, for like a general strike and things like that. And that's my point, is that Democrats are more faux outraged than actually outraged, because they're not offering real solutions. Neither the Democrats or Republicans are offering people enough money, enough as taking care of their safety. They're not offering them health care. So a lot of these people, guess what? A lot of people in general have to work. And it's not enough just to be like, oh, well, you should stay home. Not everybody has the luxury of staying home, just so you guys know. Not everybody has the luxury of staying home. They're not offering real solutions. And as we mentioned earlier, recently small businesses were mostly left out in the cold when it came to the small business loans. And now the second wave is coming around, but now there are technical difficulties. And you guys can see that there are glitches that have hampered the second round of small business loans. And the reason I'm bringing this up is a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of people want to reopen the economy because they want to go back to work, because they want to really get things back to where they were. And I get that, but at the same time, it's obviously not possible either. But what's also worse is that small businesses, which are employing millions of people, aren't really getting the money they need. Technical issues plagued the second round of emergency funding for small businesses that opened Monday, with users reporting error messages and slow processing. The problems mirrored the initial rollout of the Paycheck Protection Program earlier this month, which was plagued by technical hiccups and questions about if lenders were prioritizing the businesses that needed the money most. And the main issue centered around the system and the Small Business Administration uses for its lenders to upload applications, known as ETRAN. So these are the issues that people are facing when they're trying to get loans after the program ran out of money. And we're telling people to stay home and not work, but at the same time, we're not giving them the money they need to stay home, because it's not enough. In many cases, the unemployment that they're getting is not enough. It's not enough for them to keep other people employed. It's a whole mess. So while people are still doing this, the government is infringing on our civil liberties by not providing us with alternatives. But I just want to point out, what would it look like, right? Because I didn't see that many cops. I didn't really see any sort of altercation. What would it look like if we, the working class and the middle class now, were all to protest in a massive general strike right now? I have a feeling we'd see a completely different response to it from the government. I have a feeling we'd see tankers, that we'd see armed police with heavy guns. I don't think they would let us do that. If you look at the demographics of the people that are protesting, I don't agree that they think that this isn't a big deal, whatever, but it is their right to protest. And I think it would be a very different response from the government if we were to say have a general strike, right? So that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to do something on May 1st, so on May Day.
Yes, on May Day, yes.
So something to look at there.
Yes, that's exactly it. And we have some people that I know that are really gearing up and have a lot of information on that. So we'll be definitely keeping tabs on what's going on May 1st. It's May 1st is the rent strike that's happening, and people are not going to pay rent again and are striking. So that's something that we're going to talk a little bit more about. And as we wrap up, I just want to talk about briefly the new evidence against Biden that's pushing the Never Biden voters to demand him to drop out in this hashtag dropout Biden. And this is new evidence of Tara Reade's rape allegation. And basically this is telling us that Democrats can no longer say that Trump is the only sexist and rapist in the race. So The Intercept's Ryan Grimm wrote a new piece highlighting the evidence that has emerged. And this is regarding the credibility of Tara Reade's claim that she told her mother about allegations of sexual harassment and assault related to her former boss, then Senator Joe Biden. Biden, through a spokesperson, has denied the allegations. The Intercept, she told various media outlets, including The Intercept, that her mother, a close friend, and her brother about both the harassment and Reade has claimed to various outlets, including The Intercept, that she told her mother, a close friend, and her brother about both the harassment and to varying degrees of detail assault at the time. And she also mentioned that her mother had made a phone call to Larry King Live on CNN. And just so you guys know, they later on removed this from CNN. CNN literally removed that video later on. And she said she didn't remember much about it, but she said, I remember it being an anonymous call and her saying my daughter was sexually harassed and retaliated against and fired. Where can she go for help? I was mortified. And her mother was calling from San Luis Obispo, and this is how it went down, and then we can just hear it. Larry King said, San Luis Obispo, California, hello. The caller said, yes, hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was to go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him. And Larry King said, in other words, she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked with, she didn't tell. And the caller said, that's true. And they basically just went on to talk about how that would hurt the person at work rather than focus on the situation. And one of Biden's associates said, I never once witnessed or heard or received any reports of inappropriate conduct, not from Miss Reade, not from anyone. And this lady also said, these clearly false allegations are in complete contradiction to both the inner workings of her Senate office and to the man I know and worked so closely with for almost 2 decades. But Ryan Grimm points out, for Baker's statement to be true, Reade would have had to have lied to her friend, brother, and mother about having complained to Biden's office. And again, she didn't talk about the assault specifically. She just was pretty vague, and her mother was pretty vague specifically. And of course, this person who's a reporter for NBC said, Tara just confirmed to me that it is in fact her mom's voice in this. And Tara Reade also confirmed it, saying, my mother reached out in August of 1993. Joe Biden sexually harassed and sexually assaulted me. Those who remain silent are complicit to rape. And she tagged Stacey Abrams, Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, DNC, and AOC. And I just want to read the comment below because this person says, so file charges, a lawsuit, and testify under oath like Dr. Blaisley Ford did. Also make Grimm, Halper, Ball testifies to their relationship with you. If you saw a mental health professional, release your records. Otherwise, the timing is just too convenient. Butthurt Bernie Brigade. I just want to point that out because she was actually a Warren supporter and she was a Hillary supporter before that. So this has nothing to do with Bernie Sanders supporters talking about that. And Red Berets from Medicare for All pointed that out. Tara Reade was not a Bernie supporter. She voted for Obama, Clinton, and was supporting Elizabeth Warren in the primary. And that's entirely true. And like I said, CNN then removed the episode, and they deleted the episode that was on August 11th, 1993. And that was, there's the, where it was, it's missing right there.
So when I first looked at this, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But if you look at, it's August 3rd, 1993, August 4th, 1993, August 5th, August 6th, August 9th, August 10th, not August 11th, August 12th, August 13th, and then, yeah, so they took out August 11th.
Yeah.
There. And everywhere else, it's 3, 4, 5, 6. Here it's 9, 10, and then it skips 11. Down here, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Yep. And it's very obvious and blatant what they're doing. And let's just really quickly hear the video by Rich McHugh.
We're back. A couple more phone calls on this very important topic. Our guests are former United States Senator Howard Baker, Richard Allen, former National Security Advisor, and Lois Romano.
Let me turn it up. They it looks like they lowered it. Hold on.
Yeah, it looks like they did lower it. It's incredible, like nobody's mentioning these new this new evidence in these allegations.
All right, let's see if this sounds right.
A couple more phone calls on this very important.
It's like really low. Hold on.
Yeah. I haven't heard anybody really mention this, and I love how Tara called out all of the people who endorsed Joe Biden, because yes, by endorsing Joe Biden, you're saying this is okay. You're saying that the corruption is okay and the rape allegations are okay.
All right, this is as high as it goes.
We're back. A couple more phone calls on this very important topic. Our guests are former United States Senator Howard Baker, Richard Allen, former National Security Advisor, and Lois Romano of the Washington Post. San Luis Obispo, California. Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
Now, but these are the people who do come to the Lois Romanos, right? The staff worker who says, I want to let you know about what's going on, either with my boss or the guy down the hall.
And a lot of these people have a sense of obligation. They feel
Exactly. So then they went on and they didn't focus on that at all. They focused on how would it affect the senator that she worked for. All right, guys, we do got to get out of here. I think we had a super chat. I can't find it either. Not sure where it is. Oh, wait. I think I see it. Okay. Thank you, Theo Chino.
He says, talk to me, and he has a website. It says, let me explain how New York elections work. So we'll see. We can hit you up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different than California, but at the same time, no matter how it works, taking Bernie Sanders off the ballot only and continuing with the elections is not, it just doesn't make sense if you're trying to keep safety, because people can vote by mail and they're not even making that happen. But we'll definitely look at what you sent us.
And then basically Rich says that Tara confirmed to me that it was in fact her mom. She put that tweet out. We showed that. And CNN. Yep.
So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to tune in on ROKFIN. Please check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And I'll be releasing a video on subjects related to this as well. And we will be back throughout the week with some content. So, thanks for watching, guys. Convo out.